6. Laborforce. The philosophy behind the labor force is efficiency. To have taxpayers pay for large institutions and the free ride and dark schooling of criminals is absurd. The labor force dismantles the expense of the prison system and builds community projects while simultaneously reforming the criminals. Within the labor force, all will earn their keep and will be made to work, not severely with whips and scourges as a slave, and not passively like today, which allows inmates to sit and do nothing all day on the taxpayer's dollar, but fairly balanced in between them. The criminals will be made to work in the day and study individualistic self-sustenance knowledge and philosophy in the evening as opposed to stagnating. They will be paid fair wage, but from that wage will be extracted their room and board and any reparations owed. The remaining amount is placed into the Commonwealth until the criminal completes the required sentence. This is to remind one of the value and freedom of a society, and that on one's own in nature life is much harsher than in any labor force assignment. Upon conviction, the criminal takes a practical aptitude test which will reveal the convict's self-sufficiency skills and the degree of learning attained. The test score determines the individual's placement within the labor force. For example, if one was a master carpenter, one would be able to work as a master carpenter if that position was available. The civilian workers on site will usually act as the foreman of the penal workers in cooperation with the site warden. However, if a penal laborer has notably high scores and proven advanced skills, as well as a cooperative mindset and sufficient incentive, this individual could be placed as high as a project manager and remain as such so long as all the daily reports prove productive and harmonious results. The facilities housing the penal laborers will be reinforced mobile trailers moved onto the site of the project. In the proper season, where possible, they will rear on-site windmills and gardens to assist the generation of food and energy for the site penal laborers, as well as practicing a valuable skill, a reform in itself. Defection will be discouraged not only by the humane treatment and interesting knowledge being gained, but also by site wardens, who also act as protection for the civilian workers. Wardens are armed with non-lethal but powerful weapons, such as beanbag shot, rubber bullets, high-voltage tasers, and tranquilizers. The wardens shall be scolding fathers to those not meeting at least average production. This is no different than that of the younger laborer of a freeman's bricklayers union, scolded and hollered at for 8 hours a day, and that boy is free, and the harshness will turn him into a man. The individualist will not stand for any weaklings claiming that this more than fair system, with lighter authority than most free unions, is in any way inhumane. People supporting this claim are those who desire 1. A nation of weaklings so that they can be easily controlled, and 2. To erect a colossal system supporting millions of criminals, wasting the tax dollars of the people only so that an infinite series of markets can be set up around it, wasting additional funds, time, and energy to the benefit of the few. An allusion to the prison industrial complex. Moreover, to appease this type of mindset, any who decide that the conditions are too harsh may always choose exile to discover how much more kind Mother Nature will treat them. These same fools will declare that it is also inhumane to throw individuals out of a society. With these conditions, what penalty shall become established? What becomes established is what exists today, a system wherein one commits a crime and gets a free ride courtesy of the taxpayers. As one of sound mind can clearly see, such fools favor crime and the industry around it, therefore encourage it, and are hence an accessory to multiple crimes. The labor force is the labor reserves for all populous projects. However, they can be hired out by private businesses of any size for any type of work. This will impede the presently growing practice of supporting and utilizing illegal immigration for low pay and exploiting legal immigrants for the same purpose. Private businesses can pay penal laborers higher than base minimum wage if so desired. Either way, the populace is not paying for their wage. The project managers of any size site and the penal laborers must both fill out a daily questionnaire and have it signed by the site warden. This questionnaire involves what was learned, taught, activities of the day, and performance of self and others, and if pleased or displeased, and why. Frequent complaints from either side will be alleviated by the warden. If not, the penal worker is moved to another part of the site, or to another site altogether. It is natural to assume that these labor forces will be of low work ethic and knowledge, and therefore low production and quality. However, incentive is offered by early release, pay bonuses, and raises for good work awarded by the warden at his discretion, with court authorization granted according to the daily reports. When the project is completed and/or the inmate is freed, he subsequently now has contacts in the working world, new skills as well as knowledge of self-sustenance to support himself and possibly profit. Thus, if not able or willing to go right back to the company or department he was contracted to, now as a free man, he has all of this new knowledge to either find new employment, start his own business, or make a prosperous homestead, profiting either by food or energy. There are 4 degrees of the labor force, to describe them in terms of modern law. Infraction, allowed to work unchained as normal employees monitored by an unarmed warden. Misdemeanor, allowed to work unchained as normal employees monitored by a lightly armed warden. Felony, non or mildly violent, allowed to work unchained as normal employees monitored by heavily armed wardens. No close contact allowed with civilians or operation of any large mobile machinery unless proven to display positive constructive behavior. Felony 2, high risk. Only allowed in chain gang type settings within mills, mines, mass cultivating, etc. Any attempted escape results in instant exile. Ideally, the individualistic society will produce few criminals. Thus, in the future, there will be no criminals within the labor force, and possibly no labor force at all. The individualists' major obstacle resides in reforming the 2 million criminals inherited from the dying world. This is approximately 40,000 extra workers per state, even though not evenly distributed in such manner. The U.S. civilian workforce has about 141 million workers and grows at about 1.6% each year. Therefore, by introducing the labor force, the growth rate will jump an additional 1.42% for the first year, nearly doubling the average labor growth. This initial flooding of an additional 40,000 labor force workers per state will equilibrate to normal growth rate within 5 years, as many of these souls will be rapidly rehabilitated, while more individuals will become self-sufficient and drop out of the workforce altogether. Furthermore, fewer criminals will be initially entering the penal system due to the individualistic teachings. Some will argue that this is a form of slave labor. Far from it. These laborers have a fair wage, are assisting the community, and require such a work ethic because humans only subsist by working. To prove this fact, throw any individual naked into a jungle and observe how much work is needed to survive each day. It will be found that a very great deal of very harsh and challenging work needs to be done to survive in nature. Thus, in contrast, the labor force is a paradise. It rebuilds the character by teaching knowledge and practical skills, unlike the useless specialized labors taught to the majority of the first world countries. Furthermore, the labor force is open to any and all civilians who need income or desire a specific skill, and they may come and go as they please. Thus, it is not composed of strictly penal labor.